History is a one-way street. We look back at our ancestors and see a world of primitive struggles. Nights filled with bone-chilling, cold, brutal wars and the constant, lurking shadow of disease. It's easy to feel superior, looking at their black and white photos through our full-color screens. But what if that street suddenly went both ways? What if you could step through time, armed not with a sword or a shield, but with the pinnacle of 21st century technology? Most people imagine they'd be hailed as a genius, a visionary, maybe even a god. They think they'd be crowned king within a week. But history has a funny way of turning gods into witches and miracles into curses. The past isn't a video game sandbox waiting for you to exploit its glitches. It's a living, breathing, and often terrifyingly brutal system. And when you introduce an anomaly, something that defies its laws, the system doesn't adapt, it attacks. Today, we are breaking down 5 modern items that would actually change the world, and the fatal flaws that could cost you your life. This isn't about thriving, it's about surviving the consequences of your own genius. Let's start at the very beginning. Imagine you're in the Stone Age. Maybe 10,000 BC fire is everything. It's the difference between a warm cooked meal and gnawing on raw meat. It's the protective circle of light that keeps saber-toothed cats and cave bears at bay. For a tribe, making fire is a sacred, exhausting ritual. It takes hours of spinning, nurturing a tiny spark into a fragile ember, praying it doesn't go out. Then you arrive. You walk into their cave, see their struggle, and with a casual flick of your thumb, you summon a perfect, steady flame from a small metal box. Click. Whoosh. You are a deity, the god of fire. You can command the flame to appear and disappear at will. The tribe doesn't just respect you, they worship you. They bring you the best food, the warmest furs. You control the night. But here's the problem. Fire is a hungry god. And your Zippo has a heartbeat, a finite, ticking heartbeat measured in milliliters of lighter fluid. Every time you show off your divine power, every click and whoosh, you're counting down. In a world with no gas stations, no refined petroleum, what happens when that wick dries up? What happens when the flint sparks its last and the metal box just clicks uselessly in your hand? You didn't bring them the gift of civilization. You brought a 30-day free trial of fire, and the subscription has just expired. And the tribe? They don't take kindly when their god loses his power. They've grown dependent on your easy flame. Their old ways of making fire might even be forgotten. Now, the cold is creeping back in, the predators are circling, and they're looking at you. You're not a god anymore. You're a fraud. And in the Stone Age, frauds don't get a bad review. They get a stone axe to the back of the head. Now let's fast forward a few thousand years. The year is 1692. We're in Salem, Massachusetts. The air here is thick with paranoia, a world gripped by the fear of the invisible, of devils and witches hiding in plain sight. People are pointing fingers, accusing their neighbors of witchcraft based on spectral evidence. You walk into a dark, candle-lit courtroom during a witch trial. The air is heavy with sweat and fear. Then you flip a switch. A blinding beam of 2,000 lumens of pure white LED light slices through the gloom, hitting the wall with an intensity no one has ever seen. To a Puritan judge and jury, this isn't a tool. It's a tear in the fabric of reality itself. It's angelic, or it's demonic. For a moment, you have absolute authority. People shield their eyes. They fall to their knees. No one can even look at you. You are wielding a piece of the sun. But a flashlight is just a different kind of ticking clock. Its power is finite. Without a charger, without a global manufacturing chain, that divine beam begins to fade. Night after night, the brilliant white light softens to a warm yellow, then a dim orange glow. Until finally, it's just a pathetic, flickering speck. The awe in the courtroom turns to suspicion. The fear morphs into anger. What kind of sorcery is this that weakens with each passing day? You didn't bring technology. You brought the ultimate piece of evidence for your own execution. The townsfolk now just see a charlatan with a failing trinket, and in Salem they have a very specific way of dealing with people who perform unholy magic. Let's sail into the age of discovery. It's 1492, and the ocean is a monster. Maps are vague, distorted sketches of coastlines surrounded by warnings of sea serpents. And the edge of the world, Christopher Columbus himself, sailed on a dangerous cocktail of hope and bad math, drastically underestimating the size of the Earth. Now, imagine you step onto the deck of the Santa Maria and unroll a modern, high-definition satellite map of the Americas. It shows every coastline, every island, every river system in perfect, undeniable detail. You wouldn't just be a sailor, you'd be the architect of empires. You could point to the exact locations of the Aztec and Inca empires, showing where mountains of gold were hidden. You'd be hailed as a visionary. But knowledge, especially in an age of desperate ambition, is the most dangerous thing. In a world of wooden ships and ruthless men, that piece of paper is worth more than a mountain of silver. You wouldn't be the leader for long. Every sailor, every conquistador would be plotting against you. They don't need you, the person, they need the map. You'd become the single biggest target in the world. They'd try to bribe you, threaten you, and when that fails, they'd simply kill you in your sleep and take it. You wouldn't get to be the king. You'd be the footnote in history, the mysterious stranger, who delivered the key to the new world and was never seen again. Let's journey to an even darker time. The year is 1347. The Black Death is creeping across Europe, a silent, unstoppable tide of death. It's knocking on every door, from the poorest hovel to the grandest castle. People believe it's a punishment from God, a miasma in the air, or the work of demons. There is no cure, only prayer and quarantine. Then you arrive, a traveler with a small plastic bottle, filled with amoxicillin. You find a village ravaged by the plague, bodies piling up in the streets. You start distributing the pills. Within a day, fevers break, buboes recede, the dying begin to recover. To these people, you are not a doctor. You are a living saint, a messiah performing miracles. You can save a village, maybe a city, maybe even a kingdom from the brink of annihilation. But your miracle is limited. Your bottle contains, say, 30 pills, maybe 50. That's enough to save a few dozen people, but the plague has infected millions. When your supply runs out, and the plague is still raging all around, the miracle ends abruptly. You've created a terrifying new reality. A world where some people were chosen for salvation and others were left to die. Why them? Why not us? The families of those you couldn't save won't see you as a saint. They'll see you as a cruel deity who made an arbitrary choice. The church will see you as a heretic, whose miracles are a challenge to God's will. In the Middle Ages, the line between who lives and who dies is drawn by God. You tried to draw it yourself, and that's a sin they'd happily burn you for. Finally, let's go to the age of knights and castles. Imagine the mud-soaked battlefield of 1300. It's a clash of steel, a symphony of screams and clanging swords. A knight in full-plate armor is a walking tank, nearly impervious to arrows and sword strikes. Then you pull a cord. The roar of a two-stroke engine shatters the air. You're holding a chainsaw. The sound alone, a demonic, high-pitched scream, would shatter an army's morale. Horses would bolt, men would drop their weapons and run. And for those who stood their ground, their armor, designed to stop a blade, offers no defense against a diamond-tipped chain spinning at 80 miles per hour. It would tear through steel like paper. You'd be an unstoppable, terrifying force of destruction. For about 20 minutes, because once that first tank of fuel runs dry or the chain hits one too many plates of steel and goes dull, the screaming blade falls silent. Suddenly, you're just a man in strange clothes, standing on a battlefield, carrying 20 pounds of useless, brightly colored metal. And you're surrounded by very, very angry knights who just saw you turn their comrades into minced meat. Your reign as the god of the battlefield is over. Your life will be too. So you see, history isn't changed by tools. It's changed by the ideas, the infrastructure, and the knowledge. To create and sustain those tools. Without that, you're just a flash in the pan, a temporary god whose powers are destined to fail. If you could take only one item back and it had to last forever, what would it be? Think carefully. The choice is yours. Let me know your survival plan in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay alive in the past. Thanks for watching.